about you, but I'm getting pretty tired of giving kisses on the cheek and saying awkward goodbye. So what can I do to get close to you? Get on a pedalo and paddle from Belfast to Peru. And it wouldn't make a difference if you turn me down. Wouldn't take more than a second to turn myself around. And I know that all your friends will say that I'm no good, but I couldn't care less about
What's up guys, it's Tom Ainsworth back for another drum lesson. Hope you're having a great week. The track you just heard me play was called Belfast to Peru, and that's part of the Trinity College London Grade 1 syllabus for drums. So I'm just going to do a bit of a breakdown of it. Again, you can skip back to the start if you want to just hear me play through it. I'm going to go into a bit more finer detail about some of the points that you might get stuck on, and we'll just work through it bit by bit, so hopefully you can learn it on your own. So your first bit, bars 1, 2 and 3. It's a pretty simple groove. You've just got your quarter notes there on the hi-hats, kick drum playing 8th notes. Now you've got a cross stick in this song, which is your first kind of thing you might run into. So rather than playing an actual snare drum, or as a backbeat that you're used to playing it with the tip of your stick, you're actually going to lay your stick flat across the surface of the drum. The butt end, so the bit that you actually hold in your hand here, is going to be a few inches away from the edge, and then the shaft of the stick, so around this kind of area, that's going to be resting on the actual rim. And there's loads of different names for this. Some people call it rim click, cross stick, side stick. It's all the same. I tend to stick with either rim click or cross stick, just because they're actually notated as a cross on the sheet music for most of the things you'll hear. And you want to get a nice kind of high-pitched clicking sound from that, which sounds a bit like this. So that's kind of the sweet spot, and all you need to do to find that is just move the stick further up and down the rim there. So if I start, I'll put right up there on the stick there. And you see there, just moving it up. You can find your sweet spot pretty easily there, and you just want to try and get used to playing it there as much as you can. Now in bar 4 you've got a couple of different things here. You've got the first note on beat 1 there, you've got a dotted quarter note, and then you've also got a tied note for the next one. Now whenever you've got a dot next to a note, that just means that you play that initial note, but it lasts for its own value and half its value as well. So in this case, with it being a quarter note, half of a quarter note is an 8th note, just like 4 4s, 8 8s, just like that. So you'd play it for the same duration as a quarter note and an 8th note tagged onto the end. Or if you want to think about it a bit easier, it's kind of like playing 3 8th notes duration, because you've got 1 and 2. So there, that's how you'd play it. So the next note would have to be on the and of 2. Now your tied note is kind of similar, but this can be spread out a little bit more. So whenever you've got a tie going across, that's that little line between the notes. So we've got an 8th note and then tying onto a quarter note there on beat 3. So whenever there's a tie, that just means, again, you play the very first note and then you last it for as long as that tie goes on for. So there we've got an 8th note, and then it's tied onto a quarter note. So there we play the 8th note's duration and then keep it stretched out for the quarter note as well. So the next bit you might be unsure about is in bar 6. So that's the second bar on the second line there. You've got that first bar where it's exactly the same there as bar 1. But then you've got 2 bars there with the repeat signs. So those that look a little bit like divide symbols are actually repeat signs. So where you've got a dot, a slash and a dot, that just means repeat the previous bar. And then same again, because you've got one after it as well, you just repeat that previous bar. The numbers along the top don't represent how many times to repeat it or anything, they're just counting along. So obviously that's kind of the first bar of the line, so it doesn't really need any explanation. But just so you know, because it's got multiple repeat bars, one after the other, it's just letting you know where it is so you can count along in your head. Okay, I'm on the second bar, Okay, now I'm on the third bar. Okay, cool, it's time for a change. So again, it's just one of those things, you'll see it a lot, particularly if you've got really long repeated sections, like you might have a section of 8 or 16 bars that are playing the exact same beat every single time. It's a lot easier for the composer to just do repeats and then put a number along the top. Same, to be honest, for the reader. If you've got 16 bars just going like that of the exact same thing, the minute you lose like a tiny bit of focus, you're going to lose where you are. If you can at least see, okay, there's that bar and then it's repeating, okay, up to 16 times you can go playing 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, and you can just do that all the way up to 16, and it just makes it a little easier. Cool, so in bar 12 there, that's the first time we've actually hit the snare drum as it is rather than a cross stick. So with this, because we've still got the quarter notes, you've got a little bit of time to go from your hi-hat over to your snare drum, which is how I prefer to play it, which sounds a bit like this. So you see I don't play all of the notes with my left hand. I'm playing the first one that's on beat 4, the first snare drum, so 4-ander, I'm playing that with my right hand because then I can do right, right, left, and it just flows nicely into the next section. Because there we've just got solid 8th notes, so you should be pretty used to this as well. So the next part is in bar 14. Again, we've got a tied note and it's falling once again on the and of 2. So if you were unsure about the first bit at the start of the video where I was explaining those, this kind of gives you where the 8th note pulse kind of is as well, because you've got them written down. So it's 1 and 2 and 4 and you can tell that because if you look at the very end of the bar, we've just got 2 8th notes right next to each other. They're the last 2 notes in the bar, just 4 and. So you can kind of do a bit of process of elimination to work out what's happening with that. So seeing as we've definitely got 4 and, those are like taken up, then you can't, nothing else is on those beats. So if we go to the start, we've got 1 and 2 and, they're your 8th notes. And because you've got a tied note there onto a quarter note, you've got 1 and 2 and 3, that quarter note's on beat 3 there. Again, you've got a rest on the kick drum kind of at the bottom underneath it. That's literally just to say that your kick drum's resting as well. And then you come straight back in on beat 4. So the whole bar sounds like this. So there I was just miming along with how I kind of think of it. So even though you do have a little pause, you want to be kind of air drumming, filling that space with movement as much as you can, just so you're ready to come back in. Because if you're just going 1 and 2 and 4 and, you can sometimes, fair enough, it's only a small gap, but if you've got a bigger pause and then you're not keeping time or just something, be it like nodding your head, counting in your head, I like to move my right arm because it's my lead arm. You can also count with your left foot, just have that like rocking up and down, anything like that. Just have something where you can keep the pulse going without actually playing any notes. So the very last bar on the bottom of the page there, again, it's pretty much the same as bar 4. So you notice you've got those, you've got the dotted quarter note on the 1, so 1 and 2, and then on the and of 2, you've got that 8th note tied to the quarter note there. So that lasts all the way up to beat 4. And if you notice again, same with the process of elimination before, we've got 4 and next to each other, just on the floor tom. Now another thing with that, the DC Alfin, so Dakota Alfin, that basically means when you get to that point, you go all the way back to the beginning and you play it until you see the sign fin. So in this case, it's in the end of bar 4, so that becomes the end of the music. So thanks a lot for watching, guys, really appreciate it. If you like what you see, let me know. If you didn't like what you see, let me know. I'll be back for another lesson next week. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Tom Ainsworth Music. I'll leave links in the descriptions for that. Feel free to check out my past lessons. I've done some honours practice. Check in next week for another lesson. Subscribe so you get notifications, hit that little bell icon, and have a great week, guys.